Hello and welcome to Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable, where every week we discuss the future of this region, humongously blessed with hydrocarbon resources. We give some time to reflecting on topics relevant to the development of the Niger-Delta and her people. Now, this episode, no different. This should be episode over 70, I think. We've been doing that for a while now. We've been doing that for at least 8 years, or about 8 years now, since Canvas began on radio. And we're doing that still. We're focusing on how to take our region, as I may have mentioned, to a more promising future. And this podcast is sponsored by the operator of the NNPC, Renaissance Total Energies Ajib joint venture, Renaissance Africa Energy Company Limited, headquartered in Port Harcourt. Thank you for joining. I'm Adedayo Ilushake. For this episode, the topic is Rivers State Visionless? Is Rivers State visionless? It's a question that stirs discomfort, I suppose. And yes, that was the intention. But also demands reflection. For decades, this resource-rich state has grappled with short-term politics, environmental degradation, and missed opportunities. But what if the future could be different because the people themselves decide to shape it? In this episode, we explore the Rivers 2050 vision, a bold, citizen-led initiative that's rewriting the rules of development planning. It's not a government document. It's a people's manifesto, from youth task forces and AI-powered foresight to town halls with past governors. This movement is asking, what kind of river state do we want to build by 2050? And what must we start doing now to make it possible? Stay with us as we unpack the vision, the process, and the promise of a future shaped by the people. Again, topic today on Canvas is Rivers State Visionless? And my guest is Ebenezer Wikina. Ebenezer Wikina is a World Economic Forum expert, an alumnus of the International Institute of Journalism, Abuja, the London School of Journalism, Harvard Kennedy School, and the Stanford Center for Professional Development. He is the founder of Policy Shapers, a civic startup that empowers young people with knowledge, skills, and tools to engage with public policy. Ebenezer, hi. Welcome to Canvas.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me again. Yeah.
This, I think, might be the third or fourth time you're on Canvas.
Yeah, we've been speaking quite a bit, even from the radio days, I think.
For the podcast, second time.
Yes, second time. Yes.
It's always a pleasure.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Whether on Canvas or other times, few and far between, I regret to say, when I've had the pleasure of, either conversing with you or even watching something you've done, or listening to you, it's always a delight. Because you're one of those who stand out in the Niger-Delta.
Thank you.
And me well for the region as well. And are impacting or causing an impact even beyond the Niger-Delta, I make bold to say.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for having me.
Great.
Yes.
Let's get right to it then.
Yes, please.
As I may have mentioned in the introduction, the topic, I imagine, stirs discomfort.
It does, yes.
And deliberately so.
Yes.
So, is Rivers State visionless?
Yeah, as uncomfortable as I am to answer this, the answer sadly is yes, we are. And sadly so, we've been visionless for 50 years. The last time Rivers State had a long-term vision was in 1975. And that was a vision that was put together as part of Nigeria's third national plan. This is at the time when we had Commander Alfred, our first military governor, Commander Alfred Spiff, who was in his 20s, actually, surprisingly, at that time. So when people talk about young people now being sources of trouble, you had a young governor in his 20s at the time.
And you are old now. No, you don't have to answer
that. I'm not so far from it. So you had a young governor at the time who was able to think about the future of the state. And this was just post-Civil War. And thought about the infrastructure projects and thought about how the state can be diversified. Beyond just hydrocarbon. Recall that this was, 1960s, we found oil in commercial quantity in Oloibiri, and Port Harcourt actually was the terminal port that exported Nigeria's first load of crude oil, right? So you had a young person who was thinking about this at the time. And sadly, between then and now, it's been 50 years, exactly 50 years this year. And yes, since then, we've been left at the mercy of public leaders who come into office with their own agendas, which might not be bad. Sometimes you're lucky you have a governor who has a vision for education and he builds schools in every ward, right? Or you have a governor who comes in and has a vision for roads and builds, tens of bridges everywhere, right? But that's not, from history and from looking at other developed nations, that's not a sustainable way to do governance, right? Because what if the person changes their mind? Rivers State is too big for us to be left at the, premonitions and thoughts and desires of just a single person, right? And that's why we do need a long-term vision and a plan for how we can achieve that vision. And so that's why for 50 years, Rivers State has been visionless. We've not lacked political agendas and political visions, but we've lacked a concrete, sustainable, long-term vision that should govern the state, where successive administrations can come through and follow through with the plan for a very long time. So as sad as I am saying this, the short answer is yes, Rivers State is visionless.
So vision in this context, what is the range? Because you admitted in your response just now that yes, we may have had governors or leaders who've come on. I know we've had certain... Can I call them visions also?
Yeah, you call them political visions, agendas.
Who had agendas that span 4 years, 8 years.
Yes.
And some of them maybe did follow through with those agenda. So what would typify a vision in this case? Is it length of time? And if it's a length of time, what is the appropriate length of time to be considered a vision?
So there are various countries that have different kinds of vision. A good example is United Arab Emirates, the UAE, has a 100-year vision from 1971 to 2071. Their vision is that by the end of 2071, the UAE will be the most powerful country in the world and everybody will want to live there. Well, that's a desert.
They're not done yet.
They're not done. 2071.
There's still more they want to do.
For them, they're just getting started. So that's the 100-year vision. China has had a 100-year vision that gets renewed every 10 or 20 years as well. So different countries. So it really doesn't matter how long. But I think anything starting from 10, 15, 20 years, gives you that kind of time span. Because a decade, two decades is a really long time. That gives you a time span to be able to try something, make mistakes, figure it out while you go on. The reason why it's more sustainable compared to our political visions or agendas, is that we've had projects in Rivers State, in this state, that were started by previous administrations, and then a new person comes in office and ignores it, right? Not too far away. Look at our schools. Some of the projects that were built by a certain administration, school projects that were built in almost every ward across the local government areas of the states. Many of those schools today now have trees growing in them. There are molds in those classrooms. Some of the classrooms don't even have seats. They don't have books anymore. These were things that were built then. But because, again, there's no sustainable plan, there's nothing written down. Because, if I want to go spiritual, the Bible says, lay down the vision and make it plain. So your vision is not in your head. Because as an individual, what if you're no longer there? It's supposed to be written down. It's supposed to be a document that people posterity and people who would come even after you can reference to it, right? And look at it as, okay, this is the pathway for where we want to be. Like I said, the UAE's one is out there. China's vision. Qatar in 2008 launched the 2030 national vision that I've read a couple of times. It's out there. Anyone can download it and see, right? It sees where Qatar wants to be. Hosting the World Cup was one of the plans as well in their vision. In 2008, right? They hosted the World Cup in 2022. But as far as 2008, they had a vision that they would host a sports festival, a sports activity, global sports activity that would bring the world to Qatar and show what the Arab nations can achieve.
And they did it.
And it was
arguably
one of the best World Cups.
The best, yeah.
Yeah. So, just seeing all of this and this the inspiration for this has been in my mind for quite a while. As part of my work, I've worked with an organization that has tried to get states in the Niger-Delta region to have long-term plans, right? We did it for Abia, we did it for Cross River, we did 30-year plans for Edo State as well. And I think we were working with Delta before I left. Now, the challenge with long-term plans alone is that because of how our political system is structured, similar to the political agendas, when a particular governor launches a long-term plan, it signals to the political world that that's the governor's plan instead of the state's plan. So what happens is when the governor then leaves office, that document ends up in the secretariat. So it's in the secretariat's building there. Nobody knows about it. Nobody cares about it. The new guy comes in and then says he has his own plan to launch, right? And I think usually what we've seen, looking at just how plans have been done before now, you used to have development funders do plans for states. Like you have the DFID, USID. They would call some experts in the room, develop a plan, and say, this is your plan for the states. That didn't work. Then you now had a situation where NGOs like, Pain Foundation and co. would call experts and like consultants to lead a plan with the secretariat. And that's what led to these plans that I said end up at the secretariat's building in the civil service. So I've looked at it and I've seen that, because of how not sustainable this, style is, perhaps what you need is and this is going to be a pioneer project across the continent, because most of what happens in democracies is that the government does the vision, right, for the states. We haven't been lucky in Rivers State to have, I'm looking for the right words. We haven't been lucky to have
right words
to have like consistent, stable governance for quite a while, right? And so it's been tough because government is distracted with all of the political challenges going on in the states. However, I think that trying to hack that system might actually give us a better alternative to just coming up with a plan, because plans are drawn out of the vision. Yes, so the vision is the first step. You come up with a vision first to say this is where we want to be, and then you come up with plans. Plans can be 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, for how you want to align yourself with that particular vision. So so I was traveling. I tell the story all the time. I was traveling during the World Cup. I was going to India for a work meeting, and I stopped in Qatar. We had a layover at the Hamad International Airport in Qatar. I'd heard so much about Qatar, right? I even have family members who stay in Qatar. It was the first time that I was, physically being in the country, and I just couldn't believe what I was saying. I was like, I hear the stories, right? But we're on this train that doesn't have a driver, and it's taking us across the airport terminal, right? And we are in this place that's supposed to be a desert. And in the airport, they have a sort of like a garden that has 25,000 plants and trees everywhere within the airport. And they've been able to somehow bring the whole world to host a sporting event that we know
possibly the biggest sporting event,
if not the biggest, really, right? That challenges a lot of countries, in quotes, bigger countries. And I think it struck me more when I found out that the landmass of Qatar and the landmass of Rivers State is the same. They are 11,000 square kilometers and we are 11,000 square kilometers. So I'm like, flying, I was like, can Rivers State actually do this? Because we can put ourselves side by side and we're actually the same. We have oil, they have oil. They have gas, they have gas. We even have more people as a more human capital, in the sense that Qatar, even during the World Cup, had to import people from all of these countries, Thailand and co, to be able to come and help them build their stadiums. But we have 9 million people, they have 2 million people. So what really is our excuse? And I think from that trip, I think, people who follow me on LinkedIn then remember I wrote a post just after that trip saying that, we need to do more. I questioned why we are comfortable with where we are and the fact that we actually need to think deeper and be inspired by what we see around us. Because I know our political office leaders travel all of the time.
They were all in Qatar.
They were in Qatar for the World Cup. Our president is in France all of the time. I often wonder, what do they see? Because whenever I travel, I probably haven't traveled as much as them, but whenever I travel, it's everything around me is like speaking to me. Like everything's questioning where I'm coming from, because I know I'm going back there. And so I'm like, if they can do this, if they can figure this out, why can't we figure it out back home? And so that inspiration I've been there since 2022, to be honest. I was, just ruminating on it. I got involved with so many other projects, I think, and so I got distracted. But last year when my son was born, and most of the time I would care for him in the nights when his mom is sleeping and stuff like that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I think just looking at that, looking at him, looking at the future he's going to live in, asking questions. as to like what world will he live in? What world have I brought him into? Basically, I feel a sense of responsibility for the kind of future that he will be living in, and I think just being in that space I think triggered me, and that's what led to. Triggered me from November 2024, and then by February, I was able to convene over 100 young people from across our states, 23 local government areas of the state, and young people in diaspora. And that's how we launched the Rivers 2050 vision.
Let's take a pause there, because we'll come to this.
Yes, please.
In some more detail in a moment. But still, I want to ask, based on your assertions just now,
yes.
What would be the essence of a Rivers vision, for example? And this conversation is just it is indicative, if you will, or a mirror of what we expect from other Niger-Delta states, and even by extension, other states in Nigeria
as
and
well.
Hopefully Nigeria as a nation state also.
Yes.
From what you said, from how successive governments have handled, whether it be called vision or agenda or plan or imagination
or something
or desire or wish of some leadership. And then a successive person comes aboard and figures, oh no, come on. And then develops his own desire and his own wish list as well. What would be the essence of a vision
in that kind of scenario?
In that kind of scenario.
Yeah. So what a vision does is it gives stability. The fact is, as a leader, you can't wish for what the people do not want, right? There's something we call in development. It's called a needs assessment. So usually before you do a project, you do a needs assessment. You go to say, okay, like, I can't just imagine that Abloma needs water, for example, right? I need to know, do they need water? How do they get water currently? What's the cost to them? What's the distance between their homes, for example, and where they are getting water? What's the quality of the water? And do they need something new, right? But I think what we see in our climb is that someone just comes and say, you get a road. You get water. You get a road. You get...
So like Oprah.
Like Oprah.
You get water, you get water. You all get water.
You all get water. And I think that's a very like haphazard way to do development, right? Because then you waste resources, you waste time, you waste basically like the state's money, doing what you shouldn't really be doing. So what this vision project we want to do is, we're doing a needs assessment already. We have enumerators across the 23 local government areas who are speaking to the people and are doing survey. We have a statewide survey going on at the moment, but then this is more like in-depth conversation with youth leaders, women, market women, road transport workers and stuff to say, what are the challenges that you face in your everyday life? What will make life better for you? Right? Which is what public leadership exists to solve, right? Is to make life better. When you're not making life better, then really what are you doing there? So what do you think your challenges are and how can they be solved? Right? And so if this sort of like a needs assessment is done across the 20 local government areas, whoever has a desire to lead Rivers State and to sort of like solve our problems would solve what we think our problems are. You wouldn't just come and say, I have a desire for any random thing and just, I think I have a desire to build a bridge here. But it's not a bridge that we need. We need schools first. Right? Maybe a bridge should be like in the next 10, 15 years, but we need schools first before we get a bridge. So I think that's list of priorities, basically, is what I think will make it a more informed democracy. Yeah.
You touched on the inspiration just a while ago. Yes. Something had to do with your son.
Yes.
What's his name?
Sean. His name is Sean.
Oh,
his Ogoni name is Kisi. That's his Ogoni name.
Thank you to Sean for inspiring daddy. But still, if you could elaborate a bit on that, what inspired you to initiate Rivers 2050?
Yes. So, like I said, it was that trip in 2022, just seeing that. And I mean, it wasn't the first country I've traveled to. I traveled to a number of countries, but I think just because of the similarities that we have with Qatar and seeing what they were able to achieve, it made me very uncomfortable, right? And I felt like we need to change the value of our conversations. I mean, you come back home and what we're talking about is political structure and, who's your godfather and, who's, all of those things. And I'm like, why are our conversations so low? Why are we not aspiring beyond this level, right? And again, maybe it's because people haven't seen. Also because people get comfortable as well after some time by being at a certain point for a very long time. And I think that at that stage, there's a need for someone to get uncomfortable. And so most of the job we've been doing now is getting young people uncomfortable about what they see. I mean, like, do not accept this. This is not good enough. You deserve more. You deserve better. So what we've been doing is getting these leaders. We've had folks from the government in Qatar come virtually speak to us about their visions and their plans. and what they've been able to achieve and how they've integrated young people into their visions. They are already training, for example, the next generation of people who will be ministers. They finished Harvard, they're back home, they're interning at the various CEO offices and learning and everything. And there's already a plan for how those people will get integrated into public leadership. And tell me why they will not do well. Because it's a natural law. If you invest time and energy into something, you definitely get a positive result out of it. So they've been able to do that. So I think just seeing all of that, seeing the way this small island, peninsular country that's in the desert that has a lot of excuses. They don't have water. This in the Arabian Gulf, there's no water. If you drill the ground, you won't find water. So which also means that they can plant, but they can eat, but they're eating and they have water. So they're desalinating the ocean and stuff like that. So we don't have any of these excuses. I mean, I'm trying to imagine if we didn't have water at Rivers State, wouldn't we all be dead? because we are not even able to do the most basic things, right? We just drill the ground and there's water there. We throw corn outside and it grows. Yes, we have food security challenges. So it's that. And then, like I said, just becoming a father for the first time and thinking a lot about the future just, got me very uncomfortable. And then plus all of even though we started the project before the political challenges in Rivers State, but I think all of the political challenges that we started to see, with the back and forths, the state of emergency, which I still think is very unconstitutional, and all the challenges that happened got me very uncomfortable. And we just said, we're not a political party. We are citizens just like everybody else. But how do we set the agenda for the future? How do we hold our public leaders accountable by organizing ourselves, basically?
Speaking of what you are, you've said a lot about it already.
Yes.
But if you could put it together into something compact, what is the Rivers 2050 vision?
Yes.
And how is it different from other traditional, call them visions, call them plans, call them wish lists that we've had in the country?
And in the long term, yes. I mean, like you said, we had so many. Nigeria 2020, etc. What makes this difference is that it's people-led, right? And like you said in your introduction, it's not a government document. It's a people's manifesto. It's the first time that we're trying this out. Like I said, we don't have any examples to look at. We're looking at examples of visions in other countries. Some of those times, those visions were done by actually the government. But for us, because of our unique climb, we're like, what is the most non-political way you can set out a vision? It has to come from the people, right? Some of these people might be political. Some people are in the political parties and stuff. But it has to be us coming together and saying, what's our consensus on what we want for our future? And so it's a document that's a people manifesto that eventually will present this to the government to say, this is what the people of Rivers State want for the next 25 years, right? But it's a manifesto that the citizens can use to hold the government accountable for the next 2 decades and also ensure that it directs and also puts out the needs of Rivers people front and center in our governance and in our political conversations. Because our conversations so far are dominated by personal interests and many other sad things. But how do we ensure that what we're discussing so passionately is how can I solve the problem of these people? Not why did you leave me or what is my own structure? All these kinds of things that we hear. But how can I solve this person's problem? How can I solve these issues that the Rivers people actually really want?
Why was it so important for this to be citizen-led rather than government-driven? If I recall from the conversation thus far, you described that how that in some of those other countries that we admire, and you've been to, a lot of these visions are government-driven.
Yeah.
So why was it so crucial for this to be citizen-led?
Sadly, it doesn't look like 50 years on, it doesn't look like our government has the capacity to do one. Sadly. I mean, I guess that's a sad reality. It does feel like we've been going round and around in circles. So I think that it's a citizen-led also because of our unique climb, right? Also, when I say citizen, I'm also not saying we're not going to involve government as well. Just as you said, we're hosting town halls with former state leaders, right? We're speaking to people across the aisle. It goes across political divides, don't care about party, don't care about any of those things. Just like anyone who really wants to contribute to the future of Rivers State and has ideas on how to do this, we're inviting everybody to the table, right? But again, like I said, in our unique climb, just because of just seeing how previous visions and plans have gone in Nigeria, once it is by a particular leader from a political party, if another party comes into office, it gets thrown away. And this might be a thing for Africa-wide. I mean, we don't know yet, but we're testing this in Nigeria. Most of the time, because of how our politics is very sentimental, it seeps into our governance, right? So because of the fact that you don't like this person, whatever the person does, whether it's good or bad, you throw it away. So we want to ensure that we sort of insulate it from all of that, political sentiments, and ensure that it is non-partisan. It is we truly reflects the people's wishes. And I've had people as I said, I've had people reach out to me to say, who's your political godfather? Who is behind this and stuff like that.
Who is bankrolling?
who is bankrolling you? Who truly are you fronting this for? and stuff like that. And I know that first of all, I find the question very, very insulting because I'm like, I've been doing this work for such a long time, guys. Like, do you think at this point in my career I would then go to meet someone that will bankroll this? But And I know it's because it's a cultural thing. People cannot understand why we would just want to see Rivers State better, like as a people, and why a young person would feel like we can organize ourselves better, not along political lines, but along like the needs that we have as a people and project those needs out there, ensuring that perhaps maybe we help to set the agenda for the conversations that will come up in the forthcoming elections and other elections to come as well. Perhaps also look at the threats that we have as a state. What are some of the threats to our future as a state and as a people, and how do we prepare to address those threats ahead of time? So,
does the Rivers 2050 vision align with some other broader, vision or framework or plans out there? But because as seemingly visionless as Rivers State or even Nigeria, might be, there are plans.
Yes.
There is a Nigeria Agenda 2050. Interestingly, because this is Rivers Vision 2050.
Yes.
There's an Africa Agenda 2063, something like that, I think, as well.
Yes.
So is there any interface?
There is, yes. And I think that's also one thing that is quite key for when we do subnational plans as well. It needs to align with the nation as well, right? And one of the people who led, one of the organizations who led the Nigeria Agenda 2050 is the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, the NESG. And we had the NESG CEO, we've already had him come speak to us about the Nigeria Agenda 2050 and how he thinks the Rivers 2050 vision can align. He gave quite a number of ideas. In fact, one of the ideas is that one of the visions for Nigeria for 2050 is that we can have 6 Lagoses in Nigeria. You know how everything moves to Lagos at the moment, right? But one of the visions is that there'll be Lagos in South, in Southwest, in South, everywhere.
For example, we're talking dirty December now.
Yes.
And literally what we mean is dirty Lagos December.
Yes. Yeah. But how do you also have dirty, Port Harcourt December and dirty Kano December and stuff like that, right? Yeah. So that's one of the visions. And it ties in perfectly because if Rivers State doesn't grow, how do we become that hub? If we remain where we are currently, how do we become that hub that Nigeria envisions will be a melting pot that can drag people in, from all parts of the world? So, there's also a plan for infrastructural development, ensuring that there's rail connecting the 6, they call them the 6 major cities. So they want to connect all of these cities, Port Harcourt, Lagos, Kano, all of them, and make them big hubs. These are states that are historically already big states, Calabar and Co. But how can you ensure that you really, truly live to their potential, right? So we had the conversations on YouTube, by the way. So people who want to check out Rivers 2050 vision on YouTube, you'd find our conversation on how this vision aligns with Nigeria's plan. We also plan to speak to someone from the AU because the Agenda 2063 is also quite key and it's also in line with the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, right? Which Nigeria is also signed on to. And how can trade, when we think of trade now and commerce in Rivers State, we're mostly thinking about how we're selling oil. But how can, just going as far back as Jaja of Opobo and our history, we've seen that Rivers State has been a lot more than just oil. We're a deeply commercial people. So how do we ensure that spirit of commerce and industry can be revived such that as part of the AFCTA, we can be one of the major hubs where people can actually come to do work, establish their businesses, and that will bring returns not just to the business, but also to Rivers State as well as the state. So that's also something we're also thinking about, and we have the engagement plan for the folks from the AU too around that.
It is Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable. Is Rivers State Visionless is what we're discussing right now. My guest is Ebenezer Wikina. We go for a break. We'll return shortly This conversation is not over, but stay with us.
In the heart of our journey, where the sun touches the earth and the wind whispers through the trees, a new chapter unfolds. A chapter where energy illuminates more than just bulbs. It lights up minds. A chapter of unity, a coming together with a common goal to energize futures and illuminating lives. In classrooms, young dreams evolve, inspired by the promise of a brighter tomorrow fueled by available energy. Small businesses flourish, becoming seeds of prosperity. Energy that empowers and is catalyst for growth and change. The future is energy. So, let's light up the path to a sustainable future together. Energy for you, me, and the world at large. Energy for people and planet. We are Renaissance.
Welcome back to the Converse Niger-Delta Roundtable brought to you by Renaissance. I'm Dio. Is Rivers State Visionless? My guest is Ebenezer Wikina. Ebenezer, welcome again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me there.
Structure.
Yes.
Incidentally, it was a word
structure.
that came up,
That came up.
in the first half of this conversation.
Yeah.
Albeit in a somewhat
different meaning.
Nomenclature was somewhat off.
Yeah.
However, any organization that's worth a pinch of salt must have a structure nonetheless.
Yes.
What is the structure of the Rivers 2050 vision?
Yeah. So because we also didn't want to make this something that is a consultant-led thing, because that's what happens for most of our policies. Most of Nigeria's policies are drafted by consultants from the development space. And we're like, if it's going to be a vision that's a people's vision, it needs to have the people leading it. Whether or not they're experts in development, whether or not they understand all of the terminologies, this would also be a chance for us to also raise young leaders who would learn as part of this process. So one of the first things that we did, and this is something that we do for all of our projects at Policy Shapers, we established a task force. Right? We did it for the Reform IELTS campaign. We've done it for the policy hackathons that we do. So a task force is a group of volunteers who are like, we like this idea. We love this vision. We do a call out and say anybody who wants to apply can apply. We love this idea and we want to be part of it. And so they become like the engine room, basically, for all of the engagements on the project. So the task force was the first stage. The second stage was then that we needed to launch a survey. And that survey is still on, actually to run up until, I think, the end of Q1 next year. And it's a statewide survey. We are doing it, like I said, across local government areas, that's even in the rural areas, but also it's available online so that Rivers people who are even in the diaspora can also contribute based on what they've seen and their exposure. They can contribute to what they think can happen. So the survey is the second stage. Then we started to host, and we've hosted a couple so far, focus group discussions with experts, thematic experts. We've had conversations on media and entertainment. We had on technology, we had on culture and tourism. We've had on sports as well. So we're bringing experts from this space. Who is the best in this space? From Rivers State and also those from out of the state as well, who have experience in building this sector. And we've brought them together to sort of work on this as focus group discussions. Then we are also hosting key informant interviews. And that's where the conversations with the former state governors come in, conversations with the Qatari government, conversations with various people that we think have expert insights to shape this and also have some kind of power to be able to help us move this forward. So that's where we're having the KIIs from. So all of this is how we're shaping this together. The task force has then broken into subcommittees that are handling the focus group discussions, the key informant interviews, the writing of the book, the engagement with government post the book, because we need to do advocacy for the Rivers 2050 vision book after the book is published next year. So that's the structure. It's lean. We're not actually from between when we started till now, we haven't sought any donor funding because we know that that's also a very sketchy area too. You don't want certain people to fund it and feel like they own it, right? So we want this to be something that Rivers people are doing for themselves and Rivers youth are putting their resources together to run it. So everything from the Zoom to...
who is bankrolling?
Nobody's bankrolling it. It's all of us bankrolling it. It's all of us in the space, basically, bankrolling it. Young people who in the task force who are like, we care about this, we can speak to other Rivers people who we think will be interested in this, and we want to be able to like do this vision for ourselves. Let's do something nice for ourselves, basically. And that's how the structure has been built. We've been operating virtually, but like I said, some physical engagements are happening in the local government areas. But we're operating virtually, again, using technology as a way to overcome things like costs. Because, for example, if we want to host the physical engagements with the Qatari government, we have to fly them down, we have to, everything and stuff like that. So we've been using virtual technologies to leverage this. And we've also, because we're quite conscious of posterity, we know that this is the first time this kind of thing is being done. So we're also making sure that we have a record of everything that we do. Because we know other states will learn from this. In fact, we already have people from Benue State, young people from Benue State, young people from Imo State that reach out to us and say, you know what, just as you're doing this, we also feel inspired to start something similar in our states. How can we do it? They've come into the task force. They're also seeing how we're organizing our meetings, monthly conversations, weekly focus group discussions and stuff like that. So we're quite cautious. So on YouTube, we have everything, even our team meetings, we record them. Just to let people see that even the way we think about the projects, you can even listen in on the 1 hour conversations that we have, arguing sometimes and talking about, we think we should do it this way and we think we should not do it this way. And you hear young Rivers people talking about these things, so there's no behind the scenes. Everything is out there open for people to be able to see and see how we're building out the Rivers 2050 vision.
You've elaborated on how you've been able to capture different voices from within Rivers State itself and even beyond.
Yes.
But very key from within Rivers State. Yes. But you also described how the last long-term vision for Rivers was the work, if you will, of an administrator or leader in Rivers State who was in his 20s.
Yes.
So what deliberate efforts and steps are being taken to capture young voices of the youth in Rivers State?
Yes, that's an amazing question. So we recently just signed a partnership with ISEC. ISEC is a student-led organization. ISEC in Port Harcourt engages young people across the universities, across all the universities in the state. So we signed a partnership with them to be able to reach 2,000 young people, not just with the survey, but also through like open, whenever there are events and stuff, open like booth sessions where people can come in and ask questions about the project. They'll be attending all of our engagements as well. So you have youths from the university space who would attend. We're also going to have them as part of the surveys as well. So they will share their insights as well to the survey and how they think that the project can work. I've also made deliberate efforts over the past 2 months. I've engaged, in July, I had an engagement with all of the SUG presidents in all of the tertiary institutions in our states. So Uniport, UST, or RSU, and then Ignatius Ajuri University. We also had people from Bori as well and come together at Uniport. They had an event and I got a chance to speak to them. And again, I think it starts with the mindset, right? Because many people in the SUG space sometimes traditionally get into politics, right? Usually. That's usually a pipeline. So I think even in preparing leaders for the future, because these guys will be the local government chairpersons and the councillors and stuff, you need to also, we've started to see that, need for intellectual shifts.
Or the next ballot box snatchers. I couldn't help but sneak that in. But go ahead.
Sadly, yes. So we've started to think about how do we even change the mindset at that level, at that student level. One of the meetings we had, one of the student leaders say, it doesn't matter if nobody should ask me how much money is in my account if I finish my tenure, because it doesn't matter. If I've done what I say I'm going to do, I've done it. Stuff like that. And we had to say, hold on, young man, hold on. He say, hold on, bro. And we spoke about it and discussed it openly and stuff like that to try. So there's a need for that kind of behavioral change. And we're seeing how we can even bring most of them as well into their part of the task force as well, so that they can see that there's a different way as a young person you can lead and you can be not just nationally relevant, but also internationally relevant. The opportunities that you can apply for to even go attend programs and learn and build your capacity and stuff like that. So there's that conscious effort with these partnerships with organizations and also engaging at various universities.
I have to ask you this. Besides certain young persons like student union governments that were trying to convince that your account balance at the end of a tenure in office is something that is public information.
Yes.
For the life of me, I don't understand why I need to explain to him.
Yes.
However, besides that, class of persons that were trying to co-opt, and which might be a lot of work, but still needs to be done nonetheless.
Yes.
Do we have, you mentioned the figure a while ago, 2,000.
Yes.
Do we have in Rivers State 2,000 young people who we know are concerned about the state and are interested in having discussions about moving the state forward? Do we have that?
We will have. I think there's already a crop that we've seen, people who've already engaged with the project, and there's a crop that we're convincing, right? And I think that, like I said, there's a need for a lot of like behavioral change as well in our space. And I think, I mean, I know that young people get a lot of like stick for the way young people act in this climb, but I often say that it's because there's a dearth in public role models, right? Because what does the average young person from a chief, for example, want to be? Wants to be local government chairman. Because the same local government chairman gets into office and now has built a big house and moved his family abroad and stuff like that, right? The kind of things that our society celebrates and, quick cash and, show off and flashy and stuff. I think that there's a need for us to, as a society, even work on this. So the fact that we don't even have 2,000 young people who care about change is because of how society is built. And I think that through this work, we hope that we can sort of like re-engineer mindsets around this and convince people as to why it's important to be able to engage in this kind of projects and ask these kind of questions and aspire for higher than what people around here, the quotes, with your godfather and stuff, like aspire for more. You can be more. You can do a lot more than that. There's so much potential in you. You can do a lot more. And we hope that through this project can actually show people that, that youth can actually lead change at this kind of scale. And if we all work together and put our hands together, we can make our state better. Yeah.
I read through some of your work, which you share with me. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
And you've employed artificial intelligence AI to imagine the future of Rivers State.
Yes.
How did that work? And what did it reveal?
Yes, very, very interesting. First of all, you find out that most of the AI agents that we have out there do not know much about us in Nigeria, right? There's still need for a lot more because we don't have data as much out there about us in an organized form that AI can understand. I mean, Edo State, for example, was it Edo or Lagos? No, Edo State and Lagos State have now built data centers where they'll be able to house, like citizens' data on their own states to ensure that they are able to like have it in a more like organized way. We don't have that in Rivers State. Rivers State should have its data center as big as we are. So one of the first things that we had was we're asking questions and AI was like, I can't tell much about you guys, and so we then had to start feeding in information. So we first trained Gemini, ChatGPT, and a couple of other AI agents with information about Rivers State, right? So like, these are the people, these are the pictures, that just training for a while. After training these agents, we then started to ask questions about, we shared the Rivers State vision with the agents and then said, like, in healthcare, based on the visions and insights from experts and the people, the initial survey data that we have, what should Rivers State look like in 10 years, in 20 years, and stuff like that. And we said, okay, visualize it, because pictures are one of the ways people can easily see something and beyond just like words and explanation. So we started to visualize things. We have over 60 of these pictures on the website, rivers2050.org. You'd see how it imagines how we should plan our cities.
We should build it out. I saw skyscrapers everywhere.
We should have skyscrapers, but we should also expand out. Like you see how it's not just, how people most times public leadership thinks about Rivers State and thinks about Port Harcourt alone. But like there should be Bonny and other satellite towns, just like in Abuja, that then service the major city and stuff like that. So how are we thinking outwards? How are we thinking about healthcare differently? Why shouldn't we have a technology that can treat cancer in Rivers State? Rivers people often have to go to Calabar or Enugu or Ibadan to go treat cancer. Why? We are bigger than that. So all of these kind of questions are things that we then to see AI. So AI has challenged us a lot. And whenever we have these focus discussions, we bring the photo first and say, this is what AI says about how we should be in the future. Okay, let's even say as humans, we're limited in our own visioning. This is what technology is visioning for us. How can we actually match up to this? And what do we need to do now to be able to ensure that we're working towards this? So it's been quite interesting to see those, and I encourage people to check it out, rivers2050.org. Check it out, see those images, let them challenge you, let them challenge how you see education. I mean, kids in school should have tabs and laptops. Every Rivers child. I mean, we are seeing information so far. One of our partners said that they did a needs assessment of 25 schools across 10 local government areas. In some local government areas, children are picking periwinkle in the day. because there's no teachers in class. Like they come to class, play, then go pick periwinkle after that. You have some schools where there's mold on the wall and the kids are just sitting down there waiting for teachers. You have some schools where kids don't even have books. So they have books from previous years and they just keep coming with the same books. So like a child in primary 5 has primary 3 books over and over and over again. There are some schools where kids just pass to the next class. They don't have any examination. Like they're just like, okay, end of term, everybody just move on to the next class and everyone moves on. These are not things we should be talking about in Rivers State in 2025, for God's sake. After 50 plus years, of hydrocarbon blessing and all of the kind of resources that we have, we should never be talking about these kind of things. But like we have them in our reality today. So how do we ensure that we challenge these realities and, in quotes, fight for what we think we deserve as a people and as a state? And I think that's what this project is seeking to address.
You've described what artificial intelligence envisions for Rivers State.
Yes.
And we can see more of that on
rivers2050.org. You'll find, on the homepage, you'll see all of that AI.
The Rivers Vision 2050 itself.
Yes.
What do you envision?
Yes.
The future of Rivers State.
So we've actually been asking this question as well to everyone who comes on the platform. We're always like, what is your vision? What is the Rivers State of your dreams? And if people go on the website, you'll find all of this information there. And I think what would eventually come together in the book will be a sum total of everything everyone's going to say, right? Everything the people say. But I think what we've seen so far from what people are saying is they want a safe state. I don't want to come from a state where when I go, I don't know, somewhere, maybe Abuja or Lagos, and I say I'm from Port Harcourt, Port Harcourt, are people safe? Are people fine? That's the first question. How are people coping? Are you safe? So we want a safe state, a state where people can come out at 10, 11, 12 without the fear of being hurt, or being kidnapped or something, right? So people want a safe state because when there's safety, then investment returns. I don't know if you've noticed, but like the Trans-Amadi area, which was actually one of the pioneer again from Commander Alfred Jesse's peacetime, one of the pioneer places where like an industrial layout was designed for the first state to do that. So you can see how low we've dropped. So Trans-Amadi area is becoming quieter every day. I don't know if anyone has noticed. You're having companies...
So we've noticed.
You're having companies close down, right? And with each company closing down, those are jobs that are lost, hundreds of jobs lost, right? So how can we come from a state where we have resources, but we're not converting? I mean, we have glass sand, for example. Why don't we have a glass company that can help us make this much more bigger than what we have now, right? We have a lot more resources. We have an arable land. We have different species of fish. We have a lot, right? So how do we move from just these raw materials to processing and using that as a way to create industry and create jobs for people? So people want that. People want a state that is, that has a burgeoning private sector that is growing, where companies are not scared for their lives. I mean, we're lucky to have companies like Renaissance and Co that actually are still staying in Port Harcourt. There are many of them that have left, right? So how do we ensure that we have a place where private sector is safe to stay in? People are safe. A place where children are being educated to the best standards. Now, the federal government has launched a new curriculum, but if you have a state where children don't even have books for primary 4 in primary 5, how would they learn AI? The federal government curriculum is AI and all of these things. You don't have teachers. Teachers are not being paid well, especially the ones who have to go to riverine communities to go teach. So how would they learn AI and all those kind of things? So how do we ensure that we can even match up what our kids are learning with the present reality so that they can even compete, with all of these things? And I also have my own vision as well for it. I don't know if you want to share my own vision for Rivers State as well, which will be part of this book. And I think that it should be a state that also is future ready as well. And one of the things that I said recently during my TED talk is that there are 5 threats to us as a state. One is our population. With our current growth and birth rates, we have a risk of having close to 4 million extra people adding to our states over the next 10 years. So how do we plan for that? We don't just wait for 10 years and just say, we have many people now. There's traffic now. There's no house to live and stuff like that. We need to actually preempt these things and plan. How do we even incentivize family planning as well? To say people have to plan for it. You shouldn't just have kids for the sake of having kids. You should actually plan for it. Ensure that you can have as much as you can take care of and not have your kid and throw the kid out there to become a liability for other people. So that's one of it. Second one is that there's so much talk about the movement from fossil fuels to other form of energy. And even energy companies, Renaissance and Co, are now thinking about that as well. How can they diversify their energy portfolio and stuff? So as a state, being a state that receives our proceeds, majorly from hydrocarbon economy. How are we thinking about that? If the companies are diversifying, why are we not why are we not diversifying? Why are we not thinking about making our economy beyond just our regular source? Federal allocation, 13% derivation. How are we thinking beyond that? How can our state grow beyond that? So we need to diversify our economy. Some centers predict that in 9 years, many of the big oil giants will begin to diversify. That's all for argument, because there are people like several other organizations that are out there that deny that. So that's very key. We need to also think about our coastal communities. There's risk of them being washed away with increased flooding and increased sea level rise as well. That's also very key as well. And when you think about our children, the kids that are born today would walk at a period where AI will reign supreme, right? AI is beginning to reign supreme already. So how can we prepare them ahead for that? So I think these are the kind of threats, the 5 threats that we need to keep in mind and focus on how we can prepare our states to be able to match those threat levels. The regular Nigerian thing is to wait till it happens and then worry. But how do we prepare ahead of time as a state and as a people for this coming future?
What are the challenges you perceive
Many.
Work against the realization of the Rivers 2050 vision? And what mitigation plans do we have?
Many, like I said, there's the issues around political patronage and stuff like that. We're beginning to see that as well. So, like I said, people ask us questions like, who's funding you and stuff like that. Some people being skeptical about engaging with us because they feel like we're from a certain political group or the other, and we always have to clarify that. So that's often the patronage, political patronage. Challenges as well around how we can, the scope of it. Because again, we can't have every single person in Rivers State give us feedback on the survey, but how far can we really go? So we're really pushing ourselves hard to see that we can, if you ask 1 out of 3 people should tell you that they know about the Rivers 2050 vision, right? So we're really pushing hard to see how at least we get insights from as many people as possible to be able to drive this, because it should be the people's vision. The people should know about it, right? People often say funding is a challenge because we know we'll get to the point where we have to print the vision, engage, and all these kind of things. I don't think it will be too much of a problem, because I think that with how we've worked so far, we've been able to, as people, coordinate ourselves so far as young people and raise the funds for this. And I don't see us going to beg for money for this project, right? But yeah, maybe funding might be a challenge in the future, but I think that's something that we're going to find ways to work around as well to be able to build this up. So these are the ones that I see so far, and I think it's mostly because of our climb and how we are. We know once we get into next year, most conversations become partisan. Anything you say is read through a political spectrum. So since we plan to launch the vision book next year, I hope that the book helps to set the agenda for the elections as to what Rivers people want, and hope political parties can draw their manifestos from the book and stuff like that. So we also need to be able to foresee that and plan as to how we manage these issues that will come up.
All of this, I'm sure, has been a huge process. I can't even begin to fathom what has taken you and others, your team members who are working with us here.
Yeah.
What lessons, what has this taught you about civic engagement and leadership?
No, this is a whole new spectrum. Like I said, this is the first time, from what's documented online, from what we can find, this is the first time that we're having young people and citizens engage on a state vision. Like I said, usually it's the government who does it, right? But this is the first time that we're trying this out. So there's so many challenges in, first of all, communicating the vision of the vision, to the people, to understand why we even need it. Because I think there's so much apathy out there that most people are just resigned to their fate. They're like, it's not my business, whatever happens out there, I don't really care anymore. Whatever can happen, I'll just try, as far as I can eat, I'm fine. So we're trying to get people to move from that, as far as I can eat, I'm fine, to actually saying, I have a stake in this. This is my state. I deserve better. So we're trying to move people from that mindset to here, and that's one of the challenges that we faced so far. We've also faced quite a bit of challenges as well in, like I said, getting more young people to see the behavioral change conversation thing, to see from our own perspective as to why this is important. Luckily we've had a very powerful, I would say, task force so far that always has ideas. Again, like I said, people should go listen to our meetings. You'll see why I'm actually very proud of the task force. Young people are actually asking questions and stuff, right? But again, beyond just the 100, Rivers State has 9 million people. How do you move beyond the 100 to a lot more people, to engage people at that scale where we can begin to see the changes in our daily behaviors? That's also one of the challenges that we've also faced as a people as well.
We have to wrap this up now. But
Thank
finally, we can't end this. I remember in the course of the conversation, you mentioned the 2,000 figure. I asked you about that. And you said that we will get a 2,000 figure. So that means that I suspect there's a deficit. So whatever number is left, and it's not a bad idea for you, 3,000, 5,000.
I mean, we as far as possible.
Exactly. So to that young person who is not yet in that number, or who is not associated or identified with that number, say something to them now.
Yeah, no, my message to you is that we deserve better. As a people, as a state, not just as Rivers State, but as a region, because I know this conversation covers across Niger-Delta region. We deserve better in the kind of public leadership that we get. We need to be more active as citizens. We need to imagine better, and we need to also play our role in role modeling leadership to those that are public leaders. You know, as young people, if we say we are the future, we are the best thing after sliced bread and stuff like that, we need to show it now. You know, you wouldn't show that you're the best thing when you're 40 or 50. It's now, it's today that you're going to show it. So we hope that we can use this time to show that through this project and through other projects that we work on as an organization. Yeah.
The topic for this episode is Rivers State Visionless? I think it's safe to give an answer now. No. And the reason is we had the likes of Ebenezer Wikina, convener, founder, I think that's the right title.
Yes, convener of Rivers State Vision.
Absolutely. Yeah. Ebenezer, it's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks for having me.
Play your role. Do what you can, especially as a young person. The future is yours. Grab it now. Thanks for listening. This podcast was brought to you by Renaissance Africa Energy Company Limited. I'm Daniel Shakin. Thanks for watching this episode. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of your day. Bye for now.